doing bean things. Bean, 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 bean. That's me. So for right now in this moment, like for this month, don't do anything. You know, don't do anything. Just because we have a lot of cards that speak to not being able to see situations clearly. Like we have the Two of Swords in the reverse, which is not having a good mental picture of everything, just being kind of confused and everywhere. Like it's just, you can't see what's going on very clearly. And when that happens, sometimes you can tend to make the wrong choice, you know? So I would suggest not doing anything for right now. And then we also have the King of Swords here in the reverse. The King of Swords has no mental stability. It's kind of like all everywhere. It's mentally very chaotic. Sometimes it gets mentally overwhelmed. Sometimes the smallest things overcome it. So it can get really, really stressful, which is why I recommend for right now, like this month, don't do anything. But in general, I think you should go with renting. And the main reason why I say renting is because when I look at the housing part, like we have the Two of Wands here, which is a card where you're presented with options. You're presented with choices. It's like, okay, you have a couple of different options and choices in front of you, and basically just go where your heart leads you. You know, this is like, okay, what do you want to do? What do you feel called to do? And then put in the energy and the time for it to see where that takes you. But we also have the Justice in the reverse. This card feels very imbalanced. It feels very unseen, unheard. Like it feels like its point is just not being taken, you know? It's just like a very unfair situation that it's being put in. And so for these two cards to happen when I ask about housing, it makes me feel like you're just going to be put in a situation where things are very unfair, unbalanced, and your input is not going to be taken into consideration, you know? So that may be too much for right now. When we ask about if you should rent, the answer is not right now, which is why I said don't do anything right now. But I think the answer is ultimately yes, because we have the Six of Swords here, and the Six of Swords is a card where it's like, okay, we're moving away from things that are stressful, we're moving away from things that are chaotic, and we're trying to bring in that peace, that calmness, so that way we can have what we want, you know? So I think renting would be the option. And we also have the Hangman here, which the Hangman is a card that tells you to wait. It's like right now isn't the time to make a decision. We have to just kind of wait patiently in order for us to see any real movement with that, which it could really just be like the money isn't where it's supposed to be. So we have to like just take the time to like really see, okay, where do I want to go? Do I have the money for it? Is this a good place for me to live? And I think when it comes into housing, like buying a house is a lot. I don't know if you've looked into it, but like it's a lot. You have to make sure that you have a good credit, and the whole process takes like the whole process can take months, like 6 months, you know, which is why I think the housing situation just feels unfair, because I think you'll be put in that unfair situation a lot longer. Your husband won't move, it's not money. Oh, you bought 2 houses before. Yeah, so you know, buying a house can be a lot, you know, it can be a little bit stressful, but regardless of what's happening here, both situations you're going to have to wait. That's really what it is. In both cases, there's waiting that has to happen. In general, that's just what it's looking like. I would say probably renting would be a little bit faster and or easier than buying a house, but ultimately that choice is up to you. Did you see the other comment about your mother-in-law? The stress of this house, you can't live here much longer. Yeah, which is, I get that. I completely understand that, but I promise you, if you try and do that now, it's just not going to work out the way you want it to, you know? Which is why I said don't do anything for this month, you know? Start fresh in January, because it's so stressful, there's that tendency to not think clearly, which could end up putting you in a bad situation, you know? And that's the only reason why I'm like, don't do anything right now, because if you try and do something right now, it's not going to come out the way you want it to, and it's going to end up causing more stress than you would like, you know? Could it eventually be like, okay, yeah, I eventually moved out? Yes, but it would make the whole process a lot more stressful than it needs to be, you know? Which is why I'm like, just hold off for this month and try and figure that out next month, you know? Maybe this month, just look into places, just see, okay, is this someplace that I would like to live? Like, just look, but don't actually try and make any actions toward anything, because that might not turn out the way that you would want it to, honestly. But yeah, Ultimately, the decision is yours. But if you're asking me my opinion based on what I'm seeing here, I would say probably renting, just because that feels like it would be less chaotic. You know, it feels like it would get you to where you want to go faster, which is out of where you're currently at. And it would be less stressful. You know, that's what I'm saying. And then I put a couple of cards to see if you should stay where you are now. And obviously the answer is no, because we have the Five of Wands here, which is pointless fighting, arguments, people not getting along, people butting heads, and the Knight of Swords in the reverse, which is a very stressful and chaotic card, which just feels very overwhelming. It's like, it just gets very overwhelmed, you know, and it's hard to deal with that stress and overwhelmingness. So that answer is no. Like, is there an agreement where you're at now? Yes, but just because there's an agreement and there's an understanding doesn't mean that it's not stressful and that there's not going to be arguments about the tiniest things. So yeah, does that make sense? You paid for a reading. You want to know what you need to be aware of career-wise, and what areas of your life require more attention right now, correct? How intriguing. Why are so many of these cards in the reverse is my question. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not seeing a whole bunch of awesome things in the career life, right? And it's feeling like mostly you are holding yourself back in the career aspect. And the main reason I say this is because we have the Four of Cups here, and the Four of Cups is a hard-headed and stubborn card. Like, this card does not like to listen to other people's advice. It doesn't like to open itself up to new things. It doesn't like to open itself up to new ideas. And so it stays stuck in where it's at because it doesn't want to try something new. It doesn't want to explore new possibilities, or it doesn't want to take the advice of other people, you know? And a lot of this is just not being open enough, you know, and being too like, no, I'm right, I can do it by myself. Like, it's because it doesn't want to receive help from other people is where that like getting in its way happens. And then we also have the Page of Swords in the reverse, and the Page of Swords in the reverse, it does this thing where it doesn't think clearly. Like, it doesn't plan, it doesn't adequately look at the situation. Sometimes it just does, you know, without thinking about the long-term consequences of things and thinking about, okay, like, how is this going to play in the long run? Is this suitable? Is this sustainable? And it's just focused on the right heres and the right nows. And that's the problem with this card. It like doesn't have a lot of forethought in it, which makes it very chaotic and like unreliable and just all everywhere, you know? Because it usually has the energy of like, okay, let's do it. Let's start something new. Let's build something. Let's create whatever we're trying to create. But it's just very bad at executing it, which with these two cards in mind, I would say your biggest thing that you would probably need to do is take advice from other people, you know, and be like, okay, what can I do to better this situation? And like take in other people's opinion, especially people who might know a little bit more than you. So that's what I'd say. That and just slowing down and just taking it one step at a time could be extremely beneficial. In the general sense of the things that you need to pay attention to right now, we have a couple of things. We have the Eight of Swords here in the upright, and the Eight of Swords doesn't have good clarity. It can't see the situation's good, and usually this card feels very stuck. It feels very trapped, and it doesn't know how to get out of a situation because it can't see the way out. And what's interesting about this card is you're usually not as stuck and you're not as trapped as you think you are, and it's a lack of perspective that's happening here. It's because you're focusing on things from one point of view and one angle, and it's keeping you limited and in a box. So if you could expand your perspective and see things from different point of views, which is why I'm like talking to people, getting their advice could really help you. It'll help you see a solution to the problems, you know? That's what it is. So that's what this is. It's just feeling stuck, feeling trapped, and it's because we don't have the clarity and we don't have the perspective that we need. And so we have to take a moment to gain that perspective and broaden our horizon, honestly. We also have the Knight of Pentacles in the reverse here. And the Knight of Pentacles in the reverse, it lacks commitment. Like, usually it wants to do something. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And that's where that Page of Swords energy also comes in. Like, the Page of Swords usually has all that energy. It's like, let's do it, let's go. But sometimes it becomes very fickly, where it's like one moment it's like, all right, I got this, and the next it's like, actually, I'm not feeling it anymore. I don't want to do that. And so then it just drops it to start something new, you know? And usually this is because there's not a whole bunch of like stability You know, it's like those things that bring you that sense of stability, that sense of comfort, that sense of safety. It's not completely there. So it's like, well, if it's not there, I'm just going to go find something else. That's usually what that is. And also, we have the Seven of Swords in the reverse. The Seven of Swords is a theft of time and energy. It's like usually there's a situation or people that are stealing your time and energy. So this card asks you to protect yourself. It asks you to step back from people and situations so that way you can make sure that you're not being drained. So that way you can make sure that they're not taking away from you. So this card is like, you need to protect yourself. You need to protect your time and energy. You need to be careful about who you're around and who you invest in, because not everyone's genuine and not everyone is looking out for you. So just keep that in mind, because there are definitely some situations and some people that are taking away from you. And it's gonna make everything else harder if your energy is being taken when you need to devote some of that energy into broadening your horizon and other things. Does that make sense? Oh, I don't like this. The thing is like, he's a little, I'm assuming it's a him, right? They're a little stuck in the past, and the main reason why I know this is because we have the Six of Cups here, which is a card that is consistently reliving and reevaluating things that have happened in the past, you know, and they're like focused on those situations, which I feel like because of that, they can't genuinely create a connection with you. And the main reason why I say that is because we have the Page of Wands in the reverse, and the Page of Wands tries, right? It wants to create a connection, it wants to start something new, it just fails at it utterly, and it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't amount to anything, it doesn't manifest into anything of substance. And also, we have the Knight of Pentacles here, which is a card that lacks commitment, you know, like it can't be like, okay, let's be in a relationship, because it can't commit itself to that. Which honestly, sometimes it'll probably lack communication, and there's probably not a whole bunch of foundational things to build on with them. So it's not that they don't necessarily like you, because that's not the issue here. It's more like they're stuck in the past, they're stuck on past relationship, past issues that they really haven't gotten over or worked through, which is keeping them from genuinely connecting with anyone else, you know? So that's not going to go anywhere at all, you know? Even if they tried to, they wouldn't be able to. Eventually they would be like, actually, I can't do this. I think I'm going to have to take a step back. I think I'm going to have to walk away. So that's what that is. They just cannot. But I think they want to like you. I think they want to have feelings, but that's just holding them back, honestly.